What am I doing right now? Like, tell me what am I having?
You're having a shot of exogenous ketones.
Can you define what ketones are?
Ketones are fuel, like how you would view glucose or proteins or fats. Your body can use it and metabolize it to produce ATP, which is the energy source of your cells. People are managing to reverse their insulin resistance, reverse their diabetes, and get off medication just being on a keto diet. How powerful is that?
So what are some of the things that you hear from people with things like brain fog, fatigue, when they take this exogenous ketone?
They will feel the difference in 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I felt it probably within that time period.
I think a very powerful thing for me, I feel...
Dr. Mansor, my friend Latt, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming out here. Hang out with me.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's my first time in Pittsburgh, and it's exciting.
And last night you had a dinner with a researcher from UPMC?
Yep. I had a dinner with a researcher, and we have another follow-up meeting tomorrow on Zoom to talk about a collaboration to look at metabolic psychiatry using Ketone IQ.
So the University of Pittsburgh's interested in this.
Yes.
They're doing amazing things. Their psychiatry department also has really compelling research around vagal toning and nervous system regulation, which we're implementing clinically with our telehealth patients. So it's great to hear they're interested in ketosis and optimization through nutrition.
Absolutely.
Which is exciting. What's just funny to me, I live in my little siloed bubble here. I didn't know that he would even know that I was here. But he said, "Are you here?" What did he say at dinner?
So I told them, I was like, "Oh, hey, by the way, I'm going to Pittsburgh for a podcast, and let's meet up in person," because we were supposed to just meet for Zoom. And he was like, "Are you here for Dr. Will Cole's podcast?" Without even prompted anything.
Wait, I need to have him on.
Actually, he would probably love to be on, and his story is super interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. Tell him to come on anytime. I'd love that.
Perfect.
I never have anyone in Pittsburgh on because it's like I'm in telehealth and my friends are from other cities and they just come in for the pod. So I never think of the people here.
Right. And you're right here, and it's local, and you can easily, tap into the academia community of Pittsburgh.
Oh, be there, and standing invitation. Let them know for sure. So, okay, I want to have optimal cognitive function for today's pod. So I'm going to be drinking a shot of Ketone IQ for people that are listening to this and not watching it. What am I doing right now? Like, tell me what am I having?
You're having a shot of exogenous ketones. Mm-hmm. So it'll go into your body. It gets converted into beta hydroxybutyrate in your liver, and your body has access to ketones. Mm-hmm. A lot of people sort of didn't understand what ketones are to begin with. Ketones are just fuel that your body makes, but you need to be on a very low carb diet, or like keto diet or fasting, because you need to have very low sugar and glycogen. This allows you to have access to the ketone regardless of whatever physiological state you're in. Yeah,
so you're like bypassing it, getting some exogenous ketones versus endogenously. Which we're going to dive into the science, everybody, today, because I really want to break it down the different ways to tap into this state of nutritional ketosis and optimize, and something I've talked about for a long, long time. And as I was saying before this, on this podcast, we do talk about it, but we cover so many diverse topics that I'm excited to have a true deep dive on today's episode. But I'd like to kind of go back and talk about your story first, because it's interesting in my research and preparation for us talking today that what's your academic background? And then let's start there, because then I want to get into the personal stuff.
Sure. So I was born and brought up in Malaysia, in a small town called Ipoh.
Okay.
Although now more people know where that is, because that's where Michelle Yeoh is from.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up and, studied all the way there. And I grew up initially I wanted to become an astronomer. I was very fascinated with space and, all that. And then I realized in Malaysia, that doesn't really have a lot of prospect in terms of job prospects. So then I started learning about biology, and I was really interested in genetics and biology and all of that. So I ended up picking biotechnology as my choice for my undergrad. And I applied, and I ended up in University of Nottingham to do my bachelor's in biotechnology. And then after my bachelor's, I went to New York. That was my first time in the States, and did my master's in Columbia University and master's in biotechnology.
Amazing.
And then after my master's, I told myself, enough studying, start earning money. I had scholarship, but still, like, it's not like I had loans, but I still didn't have any savings, So I thought, let's find a job and start earning money. So I eventually got a job. It was a very tough job market at that time. It was 2010. And it was very difficult for an international student that just graduated without work experience, because a lot of companies weren't really hiring international students because they have to sponsor them. And somehow I got connected with the CEO of a pharmaceutical company via the university. I wrote to him. I said, can I meet you just for an informational interview? I just want to learn about the industry. I know you're not hiring. Like, I basically given up, right? I was like, there's nothing to lose. I just want to learn about the industry. And he turns out to be one of the CEOs that actually read his email. So he CC'd HR, arranged for me a whole informational interview in New Jersey. The company was called The Medicines Company. I think they recently sold to Novartis for like $19 billion or something.
Wow.
I met the global head of R&D, Dimitri. He was a Greek guy based in Europe, but he was just in town that week or something. And he was very inspiring. And I was telling him how difficult it was to find jobs. And I think because it wasn't a full-on interview, I was able to relax and be honest and basically just bitch about the job market, right? and he was like, I believe everyone deserves a chance. And, I know how hard it is being an international student. So let's see what we can do. I was like, okay, I didn't think much about it. 3 weeks later, they called me back. They're like, we've got an entry position, clinical trial coordinator. Would you like to interview for it? And I was like, sure. So I got a job there as a contractor for 6 months. And then a series of things happened and they turned me full time. They flew me to Munich, worked for them in the Munich office. And during that time, that whole year, I basically was inspired by the people in the company and the people I worked with, who are so entrepreneurial, but also very scientific. They all have PhDs, but they're also very business minded. So I was like, I want to be like them. So let's apply for a PhD program. I applied only to 2 schools, Oxford and Cambridge. And I was like, 2 good schools. If I get in, great. If I don't, I love my job. I can stay in my job. And then Oxford accepted me within like 2-3 months after application. It was like right before Christmas. It was the best Christmas gift in 2010. And I started my PhD in 2011.
Amazing. And your PhD was in?
My PhD was in physiology, anatomy, and genetics. And my thesis, my research was specifically in the metabolism of type 2 diabetic heart in hypoxia, which is low oxygen environment.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So at this time,
yes,
I know when you were in your early 20s, you lived very differently from a health side versus where you are now. Like, I read you were smoking 30 to 40 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
Latt.
Can you believe it?
I can't believe it, the guy I see today. I can't believe it. So, I mean, go to that. You're like in academia. You're probably so burnt out in many ways. Take me to that point in your life.
What you had in your mind is like a little bit different too, because I took things for granted. I have always been grateful, and I've been gifted with a good memory. So academia wasn't really that stressful, and I can memorize things well.
Okay.
But I started smoking at a very young age of like 15 because of like friends, peers, whatever. I'm not going to say peer pressure because at the end of the day, it's free will, right? So I chose to start it, and I chose to want to socialize with friends, with whatnot. And I was also brought up in a family where my mom's side has really high prevalence of diabetes and obesity.
Okay.
My late father, he died when I was 17. He died of stroke, and he had a heart attack a few years prior to that, and he had an open heart surgery. So cardiovascular disease is prevalent on my father's side, diabetes and obesity prevalent on my mother's side. Okay. Not the best combination and recipe for my genetics.
Yeah.
And growing up seeing all my relatives who are obese and overweight, I thought that was my fate, because I was overweight already. And I mean, that is the natural trajectory as I grow older. Not until I started studying about physiology in my undergrad and then I started exercising, And that was when I started losing weight and all of that. So the story was very interesting. If you have time, I'm happy to tell you the story.
No, I want to know it.
So this is like spring in my second year. So in UK, a degree takes 3 years instead of 4. So in my second year, in the middle of my degree, in the spring, my housemate Leanne, she asked me to go jogging with her. Now, mind you, at this time, I was a heavy smoker. I was overweight. I hated exercise all my life. I didn't know why I said yes. I went with her, and apparently I didn't see it myself because I couldn't see myself. But she told me I went blue, like I couldn't breathe. She thought I was gonna pass out.
Oh my gosh!
And I went with her. I didn't finish the run, obviously. I just ended up walking, but I was 22 then, and I kept doing it every now and again. And there was one time, there was a couple, at least 60, 70 years old. They were running faster than me. And not only that, they were actually cheering me on. They were like, you can do it. I'm like, I felt so embarrassed. I was 22.
Right.
I was so unfit. And I decided that summer, I stayed back because all my friends went back for some holiday. I stayed back and worked part-time at a local cinema. And I decided to go for that jog every day. So we live right next to the university, and the university has a lake. And around the lake, from my house, around the lake and back, that's about 2 kilometers. And that's like a little bit more than a mile, right? And I couldn't even finish that. So I would see the next tree around the lake. There are trees. I'll see the next tree as a goal. I was like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go to the next tree and go further and further until I can finish the loop. Over the summer, 3 months, because I didn't do it to lose weight. I did it because I was so embarrassed. I did it because of my ego and pride. And I just didn't want to lose. I did it for that reason. I didn't weigh myself for 3 months. And then I ended up actually losing, when I finally weighed myself after the summer holiday, I lost about 45 pounds. But I almost look unhealthy because I lost too much weight too fast. But at the same time, I also didn't put on muscle because I was just doing cardio. And mind you, at this point, I didn't know anything about weightlifting or exercise or anything, because growing up, I was always that kid who has some reason. Either my knee hurts, my head hurts, I've got rashes, my cat drowned, I can't go to PE lessons,
Right.
that sort of kid I was. And now I'm like, okay, I feel fit. And during that whole process as well, I realized on the days that I don't smoke, I could run further. I could breathe better. And the ultimate turnaround point was at the end of that summer. I went to south of France for a course. It was a biology in space course. It was held by the European Space Agency with a bunch of universities around Europe. So we all sent 2 or 3 representatives, and we go there and learn about biology in space and all these super cool people. And we even talked to an astronaut via Zoom and all that.
Cool.
And learn about how cells behave in zero gravity and all of that. And before one of the lectures, I was outside smoking. And this Russian lady came up to me. She's from the Russian Space Agency. And she was like, stop smoking, save money, and buy vodka. Like, those were her words. I kid you not. And I was like, I laughed. But then I went to the lecture, and then I came back out. And I felt like she had something to say to me. So I went up to her. I was like, I feel like you want to tell me something. Can we chat? I don't know what drove that, but then we sat down. Turns out her husband was a lung cancer oncologist, and she drew the DNA structure, explained to me how smoking increased the risk of mutation, and the mutation is what led to cancer. After knowing that knowledge, being a biotechnology student, and knowing how it works, I feel like if I do not stop there and then, I am hypocritical to myself and still harming myself. So that was when I just went cold turkey and gave the rest of my cigarettes away. And then that was, and then I started exercising, started running. Instead of gaining weight, I lost weight after giving up smoking, which was great. And food tasted better. And now I actually develop a sort of intolerance. Like, people smoke around me, I can't breathe well, which I tend to stay away from any smoking rooms or outside when people are smoking. I kind of stay away. It's
Thank God for that Russian lady.
I know.
right?
Right now.
Do you keep in touch with her?
No, I don't even remember her name.
Oh no.
I should have.
I know, that's so interesting, right? I mean, the people we meet, and then they could make huge shifts in our life, and they don't even know it.
Yes.
Like she
Yes.
changed the course of your life.
She did. And the two old couple who cheered me on when I
Yes,
was
right,
running,
right.
You know, like they inspire me. Like now I'm like, I want to be like them when I grow old.
Yes, yes. Or I think of, okay, the power of our words, right? And the power of the interactions. Like, what are my prayer almost every morning when we come to the clinic in the morning is by like, who do we have to come in contact with in big ways and in small ways, in ways that we don't even think are consequential? That is proof that it's hugely consequential. You're at a conference.
I always believe
Things
happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And for the worse or for the better, if something good happen, it's good, great. But if something bad happens, that's also great because you learn something from it.
Yeah.
It's
Man,
a lesson.
That is powerful. And before we started recording, I was telling you this. Like, I'm in telehealth, so part of I talk to people from all over the place online, but my side hobby is the study of accents.
Yes.
And you have an awesome accent, and it's like because you see someone's thread of their life and how you pick things up, and Nottingham hasn't left you fully, right? You picked it
I'm
up.
getting goosebumps.
Like, it's still there. Like, you're from Malaysia, went training school in the UK. Does your family, what do they say about your accent?
So funny, because when I speak with my family, I speak in the Malaysian accent,
Oh,
which is a very, very different accent. It almost doesn't sound like English. It sounds like words, English, words. You know, that sort of accent. And I'm proud of that, right? Because that is part of me.
Yes. Amen.
When I was in my undergrad, within the first half a year, I did pick up the accent. And some of my Malaysian friends actually came up to me and say, "Oh, you've forgotten your roots. You only hang out with these British people. You've forgotten your Malaysian." I'm like, I snapped. I said, "It's not my fault that you flew 10,000 miles away and stick to yourselves and not assimilate and not learn about foreign culture. I'm here because on top of my degree, I'm learning about everything, about the international culture, about the language as well." And then, they shut up. But for me, I don't sound fully British. I don't sound fully American. I don't sound fully Malaysian. I sound like me because my accent is an amalgamation of my journey, and it represented every single part that I'm proud of, and I wouldn't trade anything else.
That's true.
For it.
Amen to that. I love it. It is an amalgamation, and I love the layers of it because it tells a story.
Yeah.
Just through you being.
Because I remember when I was in Nottingham, I picked up the Midlands accent,
Oh.
and I would say Nottingham.
Like, oh yeah.
And the bus goes everywhere but Nottingham. And I'll say, he's gone home.
Yeah, like a black country.
Yeah,
Midlands,
it's like very Midlands. It's like, and they call each other love.
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
love. And then I went to New York, and I still say things like computer and bottle of water, and that was normal for me.
Yeah.
And I remember ordering a bottle of water at a bar, and with the loud music, they could not understand what I was saying. And so I had to adjust it. So the 2 years when I lived in New York, my accent became much milder, more of a standardized English accent. And then I went back to Oxford to do my PhD or DPhil. And there were friends there who spoke very, very posh English, and they corrected me every time.
Like upper RP.
If I do not pronounce my T's and the S's, and they make sure that I do.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating, right? It's fascinating. All right, so let's dive into it, because I never got the chance in the pod to talk to someone as esteemed as you in sort of the mechanisms of what's going on with so many people. So what's the latest statistics on how many people are somewhere on that metabolic syndrome spectrum? Let's start there.
Okay. I think last time we sort of, spoke about, it was 88% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. But I believe the number has gone up to 92.
Yeah, I've seen 92.
I've seen
a
92
UNC study.
lately.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. That's 8% away from 100%.
Yeah.
And obviously, metabolically unhealthy, it's a very broad definition.
Yeah.
Right? You can be mildly unhealthy and you can be severely unhealthy. And I think the people who need to really take note of are the people who are metabolically inflexible. And I speak a lot about metabolic flexibility when I'm on podcasts, when I'm being interviewed, because I think that is the fundamental ability that all of us should have, because the metabolic flexibility means the ability to switch fuels when you need to. And depending on your activity, depending on what you're doing at the moment, your body can switch whether to burn fat more or glucose more. And the ability to switch back and forth quickly is what determines the efficiency of your metabolism. And when that system is dysfunctional, that's when you have compensatory mechanism that over time breaks the system.
Yeah. Okay. So 88 to 92, 93% of the population is somewhere on that continuum, that metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance spectrum. What's happening on a cellular level or even an organ level when we use words like that you and I talk about so flippantly, insulin resistance, for people to get a picture, a verbal picture to imagine what is happening in the body when that's happening?
Okay. Easy way for people to understand, people who are not in science, right?
Yep.
Is that let's say the street, there's a traffic jam, right? There's a lot of cars, and the traffic police or the person controlling traffic has to direct some cars into other places so that the traffic can get better. So that's equivalent to your glucose. If you just had a meal, high glucose meal, a cake, whatever, you have high glucose, and now your body is trying to shuttle some of that glucose into the cells, because then you are not having that sugar spike. And we can talk about what happens when you have that. And what shuttles the sugar in would be the glucose transporters. But glucose transporters are responsive to insulin. So insulin is the signal that the cells needed to bring in glucose, right? So in this sense, when people have insulin resistance, when people talk about insulin resistance, it's basically the cells being resistant to the signal. So if you are not getting the signal, the transporters are not going to get to the cell membrane, so the glucose is not going in. So your body or your cells are saying that, oh, I'm not hungry, so I don't need glucose, and then your blood glucose will stay high in the blood circulatory system. And as a result, you are increasing your risk of nerve damage, of increased inflammation, of infection, all of those things.
Got it. So when the blood sugar is high, what's happening on a basic level? Like, do people notice it? Are there any signs and symptoms that my blood sugar is dysregulated?
Yeah, I think a few signs you can definitely feel. It's the sugar high, when people feel like sort of like high and they have like energy, but then very quickly you get the crash. That's when you have a dysregulated, like super high glucose and then crash. But the crash is actually your body trying to compensate, right? That's like insulin. That means you're still insulin sensitive because your body is secreting insulin to counter that spike. Whether your body is over secreting insulin, now that is what determines whether or not you're insulin resistant, because your sugar can go back down to normal, but then if you have a very high level of insulin, it signifies that you need a lot of insulin to bring that glucose back down. So you're slightly insulin resistant already. Whereas in a normal healthy person, you maybe need like 1 instead of 2 to get the glucose down. So that is also a sign of insulin resistance there. But generally, I think the going up and then crash is a very common symptom that people can observe.
Yeah. So like things like brain fog, hangriness, right? I mean, people have that evil spawn of hungry and angry.
Hangry, yeah, I know. Been there, done that. Especially after a workout.
Yeah, right. But so people are on this continuum, right? And you mentioned metabolic inflexibility, a lack of metabolic flexibility. They're stuck in that sugar burning mode. What are some other things that researchers are looking at? Well, let's look at both food and non-food contributors. Like, what's the perfect soup, if you will, of the things that we're doing in our world today that's driving this metabolic problem?
Me personally, I think it's the abundance of calories.
Okay.
It doesn't matter whether the calories are coming from sugar or fat. I know there's a camp that demonizes fat. There's a camp that demonizes sugar.
Yeah.
For me, it's a combination of both.
Okay.
It's just the abundance of calories. If you are taking in a lot of fat, because a lot of foods today, especially the processed foods, they're always high in fat and sugar.
Yeah. The mixed meal.
The mixed meal,
Yeah.
like, right? You get the greasy burger with the bun
Yeah.
and the fries.
Yeah.
You get the sundae, you get the ice cream. They're all both very high in fat and sugar. And overall, you're having an overconsumption of calories. And what happens when you have an overconsumption of calories is that you then shuttle all that fuel into storage because your body can't burn off that much calories in that amount of time. So you are accumulating then fats. And then the accumulation of fat and also the compensatory mechanism to go against that is increased inflammation. A lot of people think that inflammation causes certain things. Like, no, inflammation is a defense mechanism that our body naturally produce in order to fight off infection and fight off abnormalities. But chronic inflammation, where inflammation is chronically turned up, where it doesn't go down, it doesn't go back to normal status, that's where it becomes a problem and cause insulin resistance and cause all these other chronic diseases. Have you ever had Dr. Ben Bigman on the show?
I haven't.
You should have him. I have so much respect for that guy. He does a lot of research around insulin resistance, and he explains it so well. And he also explains the difference between different demographics having insulin resistance and how the Asian genetics, they tend to put on fat that makes fat cells multiply, whereas the Western world, fats make fat cells grow in size. So you may see a skinnier Asian, but still metabolically inflexible and insulin resistant, whereas you see more overweight, obese people in the West, which is super interesting. How genetics
it's
plays
what
a
they call
role in-
skinny fat, which is like which I see here even with Western people. But you're right; it's interesting. It's more prevalent in certain parts of the world. And that's such an important part, because I think there is this shame that can happen when someone is overweight, and then if someone's skinny in our sort of vapid culture, it's like, oh, you're healthy. Not necessarily. Like, look at their labs, because there's a lot of skinny. The crude term is skinny fat, but that's more appropriate, metabolically inflexible, and you just can't see it on the outside.
Yeah.
So, like, what are some labs that you like, or what are some labs that people could ask to run to kind of see where they're at on this insulin resistance spectrum?
I think definitely fasted insulin that a lot of labs don't run, because a lot of labs, the standard test would only measure fasted glucose, and some may even measure HbA1c, which is all great and all. But like I said earlier, even if your glucose level is normal, how much insulin are you secreting in order to bring that glucose back to normal? If you are secreting abnormally high level of insulin in order to bring it back to normal, then it is not normal.
Not at all. And fasting glucose is something that we run for every telehealth patient, and it's remarkable how many people they're not coming in for insulin resistance. It's something else. It's the brain fog, it's the anxiety, it's the weight loss resistance, it's the fertility issues, which I'd love to get the connection there, because that's driving a lot of fertility issues. But it's high. That's some at least suboptimal hyperinsulinemia to some degree. It's not in the optimal zone. So any other labs you'd recommend?
Maybe thyroid.
Okay.
Those hormones, certain hormones also have effect, right?
You're
Apart from insulin. Growth hormone, like those areas, IGF, I think those are quite interesting to see how it's tied to insulin resistance and inflammation. Obviously the C peptides for looking at inflammation and all of that. I think those are also very interesting, because sometimes you might see a pattern of inflammation going up just slightly, but on a prolonged duration. And over time, that may actually build into something more chronic and serious.
So the C-reactive protein for sure. Under 1 for sure. I like homocysteine. Okay, so I find it interesting that you kind of did make it really simple for people. It's more of the calorie surplus, not so much, carbs, fat per se. I'd love to get your thought on, if you even have opinion, like even if your take is, yes, it's calorie surplus, but are there better for you versions of these things? Because there are these two camps in the insulin resistance diabetes world. Let's just talk about the macronutrient fats. Like there's tribes for every little granular thing within healthcare. So there's the saturated fat causes diabetes camp, which a lot of plant-based people take, right? And then there's the seed oil camp, where the seed oils is what's driving it. Do you have a take on that data, the saturated fat versus the polyunsaturated seed oil
You
camp?
know, that's one thing I realized in America. Americans are so good at marketing, are so good at branding that they end up branding everything. and
fatty acids.
Everyone wants to be in a camp. Everyone wants they want to belong to a specific group that fights for specific things, and they brand it themselves and they sell something out of it.
Yeah. It's how we got started in 1776. It's a branding thing.
It's a branding thing. It's very like on brand for America.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think. So essentially, your question is asking, is it just calorie in, calorie out, or the quality of the food actually matters, right?
So yes, calories matter, right? We got you, and that's your take on that. But like, do you personally have a preference on the data that's out there? Even though we know you could have a argument maybe for both sides, but is one more data driven than the other?
Yes, I think for me personally, yes, the quality does matter. I think calorie in, calorie out is the basis, fundamental, right? If you are in calorie deficit, you will lose weight. If you're in calorie surplus, you will gain weight. That's just thermodynamics. However, the quality of what it eats also make your life easier or harder, depending on how you want to see it. Certain foods, like if you have intolerance, then you'll feel worse, feel bloated, or feel harder to get your workout done, and therefore you are burning less calories, and overall you get a surplus instead of deficit. Versus some food, you actually get more energetic, you get more alert, you get more productive, and therefore you are managing the overall activity of the day and burning more calories. So I think everything in sort of moderation works great, because what people like to believe is that metabolism is a linear progression, which is not. It's always in a wave fashion. Everything, like your hormones, your substrates, everything, it goes up, it goes back down. The goal is to keep it on an optimal level for as long as possible. That's why people don't want glucose spike and then crash, right? You want to keep it stable. You don't want insulin to go really high up and then go really down. Same thing. Ketones, you don't want it to go really high up and then crash as well. You want it in the optimal zone. I think a lot of these studies say, for example, seed oil increasing inflammation is the overconsumption of it. Especially if you eat out a lot, you don't have control over how much you're eating. And it is true that in our population, there is a inequality when it comes to omega-3 versus omega-6 ratio. Like there are more people consuming omega-6, and as a result, that may be driving inflammation up. But how much do you need to eat? A lot of these studies, they are eating quite a lot over a long time. If you're just having some, and people are going to crucify me for this, if you're having a little bit a day, as long as the net, so the way I like to see how I eat food is that, okay, if I'm eating, say, I'm having a tablespoon of seed oil a day, is that seed oil going to cause me a net positive or negative outcome? If it's a net negative, over time it stacks up, even if it's like a little bit. Same thing if it's positive. So balance it out with other positive things. Everything you do throughout the day will count towards that net positive negative thing. Your activity, your sleep, your stress management, your foods, not just seed oil, right? Don't focus so much in a pigeonhole
Yes.
on one specific food type where you are spending 23 hours and 59 minutes of the day doing something else. Because everything else that you do during those time would affect your body as much, if not more, compared to that one food type.
Yes. Well said, man. Well said. I pretty much have the same like the context around it matters, and I think sometimes the stress around the food, like you could make the argument it's like worse than the food. Again, consistent use every day, you can make a different argument, but randomly here and there, I think that the context of okay, what is that omega-3, 6, 9 ratio matters. If someone's eating mostly whole foods and then has some random organic sunflower oil here and there, it's like the fear mongering around it, I think, can be more detrimental than the food itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, if I am feeling a bit dubious around certain food, I'll avoid it altogether.
Yeah.
Not to say that I'm afraid of it. And I believe that if I have a bite of it, I'll be fine. But if I'm like unsure about the data, I'm like, okay, I'll avoid it altogether.
Right.
Easy. That's what we call free will, right?
Yeah.
You know, everyone has the choice.
Yeah.
You don't have to be feared against like a certain food. Like that's not something that I think everyone should, everyone should live life, right?
Yeah.
And live life happily. And I know that a lot of these healthy foods are more expensive compared to, processed foods. Do what you can for you and your family within your means. And I believe that part of happiness is also going to contribute towards your well-being.
Yeah.
And your metabolic health.
Yes, that's so good. Rewind that, everybody, and replay that, please, and share it with a friend. All right, so let's dive in. Any environmental factors that you find interesting on how environmental, maybe toxins, for example, are contributing to insulin resistance?
Oh, God. That is another rabbit hole that I went down not too long ago, a few months ago, when they released that black plastic thing, the flame retardant black plastic release that can be released into the environment and all that. Did you read about that?
No, like PFAS, or are we talking about?
Yeah, it's like part of like PFAS, but also like the carcinogenic property of specifically black plastic material that is used.
Not black plastic. I haven't seen that.
For like wiring, for computers, for cooking utensils. They are saying that those plastics release like thousands of times higher than safe amount that can cause cancer. And I went on a inspection of my house, and I realized, you know what? I can change my cooking utensils and all that. My whole freaking computer is in black. It's encased in black. Like, what am I gonna do? So there are things that you can do it. You can things that you can avoid. If you can afford a water filter, do it. Have cleaner water and all that. If you can afford to have organic, do it. But don't be paranoid, I think.
Yes. Hey, I'm glad we covered it because it's something to know, but you can't, you literally could find research on pretty much anything. It's like the world is going to be eating you alive. It's not good for your mental health, which will impact your physical health.
I'm a scientist. I can technically build a lab and live in the lab in a completely sterile environment. But as soon as I go outside, I'm going to die because I do not have that sort of immunity that the rest of the world is providing me. And I think after losing my dad at the age of 17, I had to grow up very quickly and also realize that life is very fleeting. Yes. Like, it's the irony of humans as an organism is that human lives are so resilient sometimes. You see people who have gone through like the Holocaust, who have lived through World War II, who have lived through like disabilities, and they are still striving to live. And you see people like my dad, just out of nowhere, a stroke struck him, a stroke like hit him, and he passed away. Right. So it can be both very resilient and fleeting at the same time. And that's when I know that it is up to us to be determined and resilient, but it's not up to us when it will end. So why worry about it? The only thing you can control is how happy you live right now. Whatever happened a minute from now, you will deal with it then. And whatever decision you make right now may affect that future, and make the best decision you can at the moment. Don't worry about what you can't. Because, I have, throughout my studies and my life and living in all these different places, imagine moving to so many different countries. I've lived in went from Malaysia to UK to New York to Germany to Singapore, back to Malaysia, and then to San Francisco. Moving to a new country is daunting. The fear of the unknown is real. You don't know the place, you don't know anyone, you don't have a community, you don't have friends. But over time, I've learned to embrace it. And what I can't control, don't worry about it. What I can control, I can, make sure I live in a safe neighborhood. I can make sure I live near a gym so that I don't, tell myself, oh, it's so far, make excuses not to go. I can make myself foods that I can, know what I'm putting into my body. Like, those are the things I can control. And then everything else will just fall in place.
Yeah, give the rest to God,
yeah,
as they say. This is great. Something we can control is that metabolic flexibility. You mentioned foods that what you're putting in the body. So if somebody is in that sugar burning mode, and we started this conversation with tapping into ketones without lowering carbs, without fasting, so it's not in this fasted mimicking state of exogenous ketones, can you define what ketones are?
Great question. So as I said earlier, ketones are fuel. Same like how you would view glucose or proteins or fats. Your body can use it and metabolize it to produce ATP, which is the energy source of your cells. Now, why do we make ketones? So ketones are not a novel molecule. It's a molecule that our bodies can already make, designed and programmed to metabolize. And the reason why we make ketones is because when we are low on sugar, i.e. when we are fasted, when we exercise, our body will run low on sugar, and our brain primarily burns sugar. But when we are low on sugar, it still needs to work. So what does it burn instead? And most people will be like, well, we can still use fat. Correct. However, fatty acids cannot bypass the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain because the molecule is too big. So blood-brain barrier is a layer of thin epithelial cells that filter large molecules from going to the brain. As a result, our body will convert fatty acids into ketones in your liver so that it can be transported into the brain to get metabolized for energy. Yeah. So that's why we always say it's the brain's preferred fuel, because over time we have seen in studies that whenever ketones are available, the brain and the heart actually takes up ketones and prioritize keto metabolism and upregulate keto metabolism related sort of enzymes. And another thing is that, so if you think about evolutionary point of view as well, those days there was no food storage system. There was no fridge or whatever. And people will go hunting and gathering, and they'll have food, and there'll be time they do not have food, where they have to go out and hunt again, right? So during those times, what are they burning on? They're burning on ketones and fats. And also, if you look at evolutionarily, when these people are hunting, they need to be alert. They need to have high sort of physical performance as well. And ketones are actually providing that to them. Yeah. And I found out recently in the past year that babies actually use ketones as building blocks to build neurons and brain cells.
Yes. Whether through breast milk or through formula.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's wild. So, and we need that for brain development. Obviously, as babies, every baby does that. But then even it doesn't stop then. And I think that's what we've lost. We've lost this sort of birthright, if you will, to tap into the source. Can you explain how, I love how beta hydroxybutyrate is coined as like the fourth macronutrient, which I think that's a beautiful, eloquent way to describe it.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so macronutrients are, glucose, protein, fats, they are called macronutrients. It's because we need a large amount of it and our bodies can use a large amount of it. We're looking at grams. Micronutrient, we're looking at magnesium and sodium and all that. We're looking at microgram, milligrams, that sort of, small amount. Macronutrients is essentially substrates or fuel that you can burn as energy. Now, beta hydroxybutyrate is one of three forms of ketones that our bodies make. Our bodies make beta hydroxybutyrate, acetone, acetate, and acetone. So, but beta hydroxybutyrate is the most stable, and that's the one gets transported around the body. So when people say measure your blood ketones, that's measuring your blood BHB, your blood beta hydroxybutyrate. When people say measure your ketone breath, like your breath ketone levels, that's acetone, whatever that comes out in acetone form. And then when you measure you're using P strip, urine strip, that's acetoacetate. So yeah, fourth macronutrient, I think this is great area to get into, because normally in a normal physiological state, we are not able to produce ketones as long as you have insulin upregulated. So when you have glucose, that's why you need to be low on glucose, because insulin shuts down ketone production in the liver. But with technology, we have now exogenous ketones. So exogenous stands for sort of external source that you can directly drink. And with exogenous ketone like Ketone IQ, you have access to the ketones regardless of whether or not you have insulin or you have glucose.
Right. So just to say this another way, this environment that we say 88 to 93% of people are in some degree inefficient at optimizing this, to put it mildly, some people more severe than others, but they have high insulin, like we said, they have maybe high glucose is erratic, the inflammation levels are high. That is anathema to ketones. Like, they're not going to be producing ketones. If they are, super low levels, right? Maybe when they wake up in the morning, maybe a little bit, but negligible, if any. So they can't tap into the state. So the two main nutritional paths to produce endogenous ketones are the ketogenic diet and fasting.
Correct.
What's your take on those nutritional interventions as a whole?
I love both of them. I love intermittent fasting. I love keto diet. I've done those two myself, and I still do intermittent fasting sometimes. I just did a 36-hour fast last week, just to reset my body system from all my travels and stuff. But I don't do the 16-8 anymore because I find that window to be too small for me to have enough protein, because right now I'm trying to build muscle and it's too small of a window for me to get enough protein for the day. So I'll do like a long fast every now and again. For me, those interventions are very specific. Actually, you know what? Back to basic first. Any diets or any nutritional intervention should not be done for a prolonged period. You should always switch it up. I don't think there is one diet that is good for you for the rest of your life, because metabolic flexibility exists. It exists for a reason, because we are programmed to adapt to our environment. And I have seen again and again people who are on one specific diet for too long, there are dysfunction that occurs. They've got disorders that comes up. Even Paul Saladino, who's a big fan of carnivore diet, he's doing carnivore 2.0, which includes fruits and honey.
I mean, he's basically a medical medium with some meat.
So
love you, Paul. But
exactly. So you get that, right? So back to your question. I think keto diet is a very powerful tool to reverse insulin resistance, because, for example, like Virta Health doing great work, right? They've got a lot of studies, up to 5-year, 10-year follow-up, that people are managing to reverse their insulin resistance, reverse their diabetes, and get off medication just being on a keto diet. How powerful is that? We live in a world where we try to solve everything with a pill, and everyone wants that because it's easy. You know, everyone wants to just have a jab of Ozempic and lose a lot of weight. But you have to consider that a lot of these pharmaceuticals also come with side effects, and you then are taking pills to counter the side effects. And that's why we need to look into natural sort of products first, if you can do it. Obviously, if you're in a very severe state, you need to be hospitalized and get, treated with antibiotics and all that. Like, do that. But before you get to that stage, try and do something that's more natural first for your body to adapt to. So ketogenic diet is one of the more effective way to reverse insulin resistance and as I was speaking to the UPMC neuroscientist yesterday, they are also starting to use keto diet to treat metabolic psychiatry. So psychiatric disorders like bipolar, schizophrenia, they are realizing that these diseases or these disorders are closely linked to metabolic dysfunction.
Yeah.
They're not simply the disease of the brain. They are a disease of your metabolism that is affecting your brain.
Yes.
So they put these people on keto diet and, they improve their symptoms. And last night he said, so the reason why they reached out to us was, it wasn't that they were doing research on exogenous ketones. They were using keto diet, but one of their patients was a runner and they needed exogenous ketones because when they're on keto diet, they can't run. They bonk out. Their body just can't adapt to it. So they needed exogenous ketones to keep them under, still in ketosis and still manage the lifestyle that they're doing. And they reported the 2 days they were on Ketone IQ, the voices shut down and they don't listen. They don't hear those voices in their heads. They don't have those symptoms anymore. And as soon as they stopped, they came back. I was like, that's a very powerful statement.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's do some studies
Yes.
about it. Like, let's go full on study. We'll provide the samples. We'll provide the products. Let's publish it so that people know, so that scientists know, so that researchers, clinicians know, so we can actually go out there. And this is something accessible. Like you get it on Amazon, you can get it in 7-Eleven. It's not prescription. It's not like thousands of dollars that you need your insurance to pay for.
Yeah.
So, and then intermittent fasting, I think that is a very good way to, for weight loss, obviously, because of calorie deficit, you have a small window for feeding. So you can manage your calories better. Longer term, it's good for autophagy. I mean, that has been proven already. Dr. Walter Longo, he's published a lot of studies around fast mimicking diet, where a very, very low calories sort of mimic a long-term fasting. And that's very good for, especially in cancer patients, sort of, almost like target specific starving of the cancer cells.
Yeah.
So I strongly, I'm very positive, towards both those interventions.
Yeah. So, and it's crazy, not crazy, the crazy is the wrong word. It is really amazing and exciting that mainstream institutions like UPMC down the road from me, and many other ones that are looking at these nutritional interventions for different issues, whether it's metabolic issues or brain health issues, and the connection between the two. And something that I've always been fascinated about is this sort of cytokine model of cognitive function, how inflammation, cytokines impacting how our brain works, and that connection to insulin resistance. I mean, that's why they call things like Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes, because of what you're talking about here. I've always also been interested in that vein of beta hydroxybutyrate, yes, being a fuel, but also being an epigenetic modulator and working on these inflammation pathways. Can you talk about that? Because I think it's so exciting and promising, because it's something we produce on our own or can get cheaply.
Yeah, no, it is very, very exciting. So one of the main topic that is trending within the physiology scientist community is metabolite as a signaling molecule. So metabolites are like ketones, glucose even. Like people are starting to see glucose not just as a fuel, but as a signaling molecule. What other effects do these molecules have on metabolic pathways? What transporters, what receptors is it upregulating, downregulating, that is causing a downstream effect that then manifests into symptoms, whether good or bad? So same thing with ketones, right? Yes, you can use it for energy and we use it very efficiently, but we have seen with functional MRI in studies that have been published that one dose of exogenous ketones versus 1 week of keto diet, they both produce similar results, where there was an increase in interaction between brain regions. And they call that brain network stability increase. And that just shows how powerful ketone is. And they even looked at inflammasome, NLRP3.
Yes.
So ketones specifically lower inflammation. And this is so powerful because you can apply for both the disease population and also the super elite athletic population, because when you are exercising vigorously, you are also increasing inflammation. And if you can lower inflammation and help with recovery, you are compounding performance. And in the disease population where you have chronic inflammation, if you can lower that, you are giving chance to your body to recover and adapt to that inflammation and adapt to that dysfunction so that it can start fixing itself. Because what happens with chronic diseases is it doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually over years, decades even.
Yeah.
When that happens, you are compounding negative effects little by little every year or every day. But if you can lower something, like I said earlier, if you can net positive your effect every day, you are reversing that effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, this path, we talked about these endogenous or ways to get your body to tap into this state. And I'll just be full transparent. We recommend these telehealth, the Ketone IQ shots for telehealth patients in two different groups. One, they are doing intermittent fasting. They are doing the ketogenic diet, cyclical. Like you said, it's not always in ketosis. I agree with you. Like it should be to maintain like the flexibility part of metabolic flexibility is yes, a ketogenic diet or fasting can help to build that. But then long-term maintenance standpoint, it's like you should be eating, not fearing fruits. Yeah. Like if your diet is having you fear fruits, get another diet long term. Fruit has not made someone diabetic in the United States. It's not that, right?
And it also increases efficiency of the certain diet when you cycle it on and off.
Right.
Because when you have that change, it's when your gut microbiota like change, and that's where you see the most effects as well.
Right.
So even if you're using it for weight loss, you will see a bigger weight loss every time you switch around in the beginning of the phase.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's such a good point. And that was to be clear, my comment about Paul Saladino. I love him, but I think when we get stuck back to that tribalism, that we love tribes, it's okay to pivot and evolve. Like what he was doing now with lots of fruits, he never would have done years ago. And what he did years ago worked for him for a time, but it's okay to evolve and pivot. And that's what I'm saying with medical medium. He like loves his fruit. But you know,
that's what science is. You
right.
learn new things, and new things get developed and get uncovered over time. Yeah. And it's okay to change your stance on something. And that does not necessarily challenge you on a fundamental level. You are not what you believe. What you believe is only part of who you are.
Yes.
And changing that does not only make you a better person, but making you human and letting other people know that, yes, you also can make mistakes no matter what kind of expert you are.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. So I recommend these to telehealth patients for the people that are doing ketogenic diet for a therapeutic reason, improve metabolic flexibility, improving brain function, all the things we're talking about, lowering inflammation levels. And I find it to be great because it's a great booster for someone that's already building metabolic flexibility, but they're kind of stuck in that metabolic purgatory. They are not fully fat adapted. So it could be a game changer for someone who has like the keto flu, or they're not fully like making enough ketones on their own. And then we recommend it to patients, any person that's doing moderate or higher carb from Whole Foods, because it's a great alternative to caffeine. I know you have ones with caffeine in it too, but we both took it at the top of the show. How I'm feeling is steady energy, but not the jitteriness that happens. So I like even the combination of the caffeine with the beta hydroxybutyrate, because it kind of evens it all out. What do you think about the two as an option?
So an easy way to explain it is caffeine is a stimulant.
Yeah.
Right? It stops you from feeling fatigue. It is an adenosine receptor blocker. Mm-hmm. So it stops you from feeling fatigue, but it also upregulates your heart rate, your metabolism, your brain activity as well as energy demand. Yeah. What it does not provide is the fuel. You still have to take the fuel from within your body.
Yes.
What does ketone do? Provide you with the fuel, and it's the brain preferred fuel. So when you stack those two together, you're not only upregulating what you need for cognitive performance or even ergogenic performance in general, you are also providing it with the fuel it needs. That's why we come up with the product with a synergistic effect.
Yeah, I like the synergistic effect because I still have caffeine and I still like caffeine. I have coffee, I have tea, no shame. So I still like this, but it is a synergistic effect for sure. And then I love the pure one by itself, which I've used for a long time, is that there's literally no jitteriness at all. It's just the fuel. It's just the fuel. So what are some of the things that you hear from people with things like brain fog, fatigue, when they take this exogenous ketone?
They will feel the difference in 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I felt it probably within that time period. 10 to 15,
That's generally what I feel like when I take it before podcast. Like I told you, it's always my pre-podcast routine because it does help me focus, but also provide that sort of clarity for me to be coherent. Like I can think clearly and recall. I think very powerful thing for me after taking this for about, consistently almost on a daily basis for about 2.5 years now, I feel that my memory recall has gotten better. So, for me to pull up, okay, this paper and that. Actually, speaking of, you mentioned earlier how you use it for your patients to bridge that metabolic flexibility.
Yeah.
And, help them burn fat. Because a lot of people also ask, is this cheating if they're on ketogenic diet and they are burning fat, right? So I'm going to address that.
Yeah, address that because that's a common question.
Yeah, that is a common question because they're like, why would I drink ketones when I'm trying to burn my own ketones? Yes, transiently, you are lowering your own ketone burning when you have exogenous ketones, but this is only 70 calories. So this will go off in within 15 minutes if you're exercising, especially. But what it does do, there was a paper published by Groningen in Netherlands. They looked at the heart specifically and they measured the enzymes related to ketone metabolism. So the enzymes that convert beta hydroxybutyrate to acetyl-CoA that gets transported into the Krebs cycle. And this is getting a bit of a deep of a
they like
metabolism.
it. Their mouths are watering right now.
You get into Krebs cycle and then that produces ATP, right, through the oxidative phosphorylation. That increase and upregulation of enzyme will remain even after you finish burning exogenous ketones. So what happens then? You are switching it back to your endogenous ketones.
Your own.
You are making your body more efficient and readily to burn all the ketones that you are producing and you are storing right now while you're burning the exogenous ketone. So it really helps people to get deeper into ketosis if they feel like they are not getting to that level.
Yeah.
And then after they have exogenous ketone, they realize, oh, I can actually get there now, even with my endogenous ketone, because you are jump starting the engine.
Yeah.
And then 2, getting people back into ketosis, especially when you had a cheat meal or you just slipped up or you went out eating and you didn't realize the source has a bit too much sugar that kicks you out of ketosis.
Yeah. I love it. I love that you said that, asked that or answered that sort of myth about it, because that's what I see is that it is a jump start. It's a way to get the body in deeper ketosis, whether you're doing fasting and keto or not. It is a great, you'll notice the benefits, but for people that are trying to build metabolic flexibility with with fasting and a cyclical ketogenic diet, it's a great tool within the toolbox, especially for the brain, which we talked about brain fuel, but I'm talking about neurological type symptoms, which we do need higher ketones typically to be passing through the blood-brain barrier to get ample amounts of fuel. I find that, and this is just a clinical, I'm not giving prescriptive advice here, but people that have MS, I see people that have other neurological and autoimmune type issues, POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, dysautonomia. I find that when they typically do need higher ketones, and taking the ketone IQ with a ketogenic diet and fasting is like the perfect trifecta for these type of neuro issues. Not everybody has to be on a strict ketogenic diet, to be clear, but for some people, it is a great nutritional intervention.
Yeah, and like I said, like for example, the UPMC patient, like some people are not that keto adapted. So if they are a runner, they are a marathoner, they still like to run, but they can't run if they're on a keto diet. So then you use an exogenous ketone to keep you in ketosis and have a lower carb diet, not strict keto, then you can still maintain that lifestyle. Right?
Yeah, really well said. I thought something came up in my mind was Paracelsus. He was one of the fathers of modern medicine. He was known as the Martin Luther of medicine in the late 1400s, early 1500s in Switzerland, and he's the father of toxicology. And he called fasting the physician within, which I think, I'm not want to speak for Mr. Paracelsus, but I would assume what he was seeing anecdotally was the power of beta hydroxybutyrate. Like that's the physician within, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's up, being the signaling molecule and working on these amazing longevity pathways and brain pathways and anti-inflammatory pathways. Is that what you would assume too?
Yeah, that's what I would assume. I would assume two things. I think autophagy and the ketone production.
Yeah.
Because those two things that are being kick-started when you fast would be really changing within like what's happening, right? Ketones will start signaling different things within the brain, signaling, giving you more energy, more focus. You feel better. You feel sort of healthier, if you would.
Yeah.
And autophagy, obviously, really cleaning up all the debris and all the cells that you don't need that already senesced and dying, and you basically purging it out instead of accumulating it as a toxic sort of pile of rubbish.
Yeah, right. But that's cool science catching up with good old Paracelsus, is that we don't have to be in a fasted state to get this. And that's what I love about this convergence of like, yes, our body produces this, but we can get it in a way that's so easy and convenient. And it's such a better alternative than these sort of, I don't want to say the names, but these energy drinks that are out there. They're crap, right? I mean, what's in a lot of these energy drinks? And this is, I think, the best alternative to it.
Yeah. I think a lot of these energy drinks are also laden with sugar, and that is not helpful with the crash, because you get the crash from the caffeine and the crash from the sugar. And I think the synergistic effect of ketones and caffeine is that you can sort of almost cushion that crash from the caffeine, because either way you will get the crash from the caffeine, right? So you can still do that. And this also provides the alternative for people who want that boost in the middle of the day or later in the evening without risking affecting their sleep.
Yeah.
Because it is not a stimulant, so it will not have negative effect on your sleep. In fact, we have a grant application right now that is in review with Johns Hopkins University looking at using Ketone IQ for sleep apnea.
Amazing. Makes complete sense.
Yeah, so it actually improves sleep. And a lot of our athletes, they measure on their Whoop, their recovery score and all of that. They saw an improvement in their sleep when they take it right before bed.
Yeah, I have seen that with Oura Ring, REM and deep sleep improvement with Ketone IQ. This has been a blessing, man. Thanks for coming on. Before we go, at the end of the podcast, we have your art of being well. What is the worst tasting healthy food that you eat, if you have one? Some people don't have one, but you're not doing for the taste. It tastes kind of gross, but you tolerate it because of the health benefits.
Ketones. I mean, that was an easy one.
I was teeing you up for that one. But you made it palatable. I mean, you guys made it good.
So when we R&D did, we didn't have a final product and we didn't have flavoring and all of that. So we were getting the pure R1,3-butanediol, the active ingredient in Ketone IQ, directly from the manufacturer. So it was a thick, viscous liquid. And we had to do that internal pharmacokinetics and making sure it's already safe at that point. We already got the FDA GRAS. We know it's safe. It's just not palatable. And we did it internally to measure our blood ketone levels to make sure that it does work. So I wrote a protocol for the team. They hated me for it because they have to prick their fingers every hour for 6 hours, fasted, and measure the level of their blood ketones versus what dose they're getting. And that was quite vile. It tastes bad, but also because of the viscosity, it's thick and it coats your throat. So imagine the aftertaste kind of sticks around.
It lingers.
Yeah. So that was but because I was so used to that even the OG flavor without flavor ones, I just drink it. I can sip on it.
It's not right. It's not. You're not taking a lot of it, but it's just you chug it back and everything. But what other flavors do you have now that you?
So we've got the peach. Now we've got the peach with caffeine and without caffeine. We've got green apple with caffeine, without caffeine, and we've got raspberry lemonade that just got released with caffeine, without caffeine.
Okay, sweet. I'll just try the raspberry lemonade. That sounds good.
I just ordered it. Just arrived, I think, in San Francisco. Okay. So yes, we will send you some.
Oh, I would love it. I'm not breaking any telehealth patient confidentiality, but because she shared this on social media, Gwyneth Paltrow, I turned her onto this a few years ago, and she shared it on her Instagram stories.
Yeah, we saw this. We all went wild. We were like, how does Gwyneth Paltrow has Ketone IQ? She opened the fridge and she took out the OG big bottle of Ketone IQ. We were like,
that was me. was this guy. Yeah, I sent it to her. Yeah, but I talked about like she does it for the effects, not necessarily the taste. But she has to try these new flavors because.
And you know who else did it? Halle Berry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she also posted it.
Yeah, hey, because it works. It works. People that that need to be cognitively, which so many people do. Most of us need to have our brains working. I think that's a human thing, but it's so effective, really effective.
I think the best thing is the subjective effect that kicks in within 15, 20 minutes, because we're so used to having instant gratification with technology that when it comes to supplements, we almost give it the benefit of the doubt and take things for granted. And like, say, multivitamin, like we'll take it every day. We don't know if it works. We don't know if it's accumulating toxic or it's like actually beneficial, but we still trust it. Yeah, every 6 months we'll have some blood tests and see what my levels are. But with this one, you can feel the subjective difference.
Right away.
And I think that's what gets people coming back, even though the taste was the barrier. But now, thankfully, it's better.
Yeah. Do you take any supplements? And if so, what are 2 maybe lesser known supplements that people should maybe would be surprised about?
I was going to say creatine, but everyone knows about that.
Yeah, but
right?
no, let's go there. Like you're a fan
I take
of it.
creatine like regularly on a daily basis. It helps with my recovery for working out and lifting. It helps with cognition. It has improved again and again. It's one of the most studied supplements.
Hundreds of studies.
And it's safe. So you know, I take creatine, but I also take vitamin D, because I think a lot of people, no matter how much sun you get, what they found is that they're still lacking in vitamin D.
Yeah.
So they still need to take sort of supplement on that end. And you need to, I believe you need to take it with magnesium to increase the efficiency, the bioavailability.
Yeah, magnesium definitely is another deficiency that we see across the board. What's your favorite? You traveled all around the world. You've lived around the world. What's your favorite restaurant that comes to mind? And when you're there, what do you order?
Ooh, there's so many. Oh,
do you have like
last night I went to a good sushi restaurant.
Oh, really?
Otaro.
Okay.
The view was amazing. You can view the whole city.
Oh, you're on Mount Washington then?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I've never been there.
You should go. They just celebrate. They're celebrating their like 1 year anniversary. I'm not even being paid for this. They're celebrating the 1 year anniversary today. Apparently.
Right. I don't get out enough, guys. I literally just ate at home. That's why I asked this question.
That was a UPMC guy who took me there. So that was great. I think my favorite restaurant, I would say like in San Francisco, I love this Thai restaurant called Mani Thai. It's very homely and very like cozy, authentic. And the dish I would normally order, they only have it on weekends and only some weekends. It's homok thale. It's like this seafood stew in coconut like curry. That tastes amazing.
Sounds amazing.
And I love the owner, because I went there, I think, on my 3rd day after moving to San Francisco. My neighbor took me there. And the owner, the lady, May, she was so bubbly, so lovely, this older Thai lady. And she also said she's a psychic, and she looked at me. She was like, "You got a great future." I was like, "I love you already." I was like, "Great! I just moved here. I need that."
That's amazing. She's has a restaurant and she's psychic. Hey,
yeah, exactly. 2 in 1.
Yeah, right.
Get your fortune read and eat good food.
Yeah, I mean, what could you ask for? What more could you ask for? That's great. What is a book that you've read recently? It doesn't have to be recently. Like, what is a book? I'm getting the Art of Being Well book club, and what should I add to the list?
Oh, I was telling my friend, I don't read leisurely because I read so many like studies.
Yeah.
And because my habit of reading is analyzing. So I'll like go through it. I'll look through the protocol. I'll look through the result. Yeah. So when I read leisurely, I start analyzing things. And after 20 pages, I get really tired.
Interesting. You're like over-analyzing the fiction book. Yeah.
But Brain Energy by Chris Palmer, Dr. Chris Palmer from Harvard.
It's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Dr. Casey Means.
Yes. Book. Good energy.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. You're going to hang out with Callie soon here, right?
Yes. We're going to get on True Med podcast.
Amazing.
So we're trying to coordinate a date. Hopefully. So I was on David Nurse's podcast, and David suggested we should have a roundtable between me, David, Max Lugavier, and Callie Means. I was like, that would be a great lineup.
Brain lineup.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's a good idea. David Nurse is another great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was having you tease me from afar, right?
Yeah, he did.
But you have to say, I'm probably a better podcast host than David Nurse.
We got to cut that and send it to him.
All right, my friend. Where do people go to learn more about the things we're talking about, and you specifically, your work? Yeah.
Sure. You can always go to our website, www.ketone.com. And Ketone as well, at Ketone on all social media for anything ketone related, ketone IQ related. And you can find me personally at Latt Mansor, LattMansor, on all social media, mainly active on Instagram. I was trying to grow my TikTok, and then the uncertainty of whether TikTok is even going to stay kind of made me a bit demotivated. But you can reach me on Instagram. And if you have any questions and whatnot, like feel free to DM me or email me at Latt@ketone.com.
Amazing. And I have a special code for people. If they go to ketone.com/Will Cole, they can get 30% off subscription order. Plus, they'll get a free gift with their second shipment, like fun stuff like a free 6-pack Ketone IQ merch. You get so much stuff. So it's ketone.com/Will Cole. Thanks for that. I appreciate that.
No, thank you.
Yeah, man. Come back anytime.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
We'll do second episode where we do like a deeper dive on the studies.
Let's do it next time.